The mining days tapered off. From what I've heard, by the 1960s here, there was very few people living here, you know, half a dozen maybe, until people started moving back in the late 60s and 70s. And
it was just started to become a younger scene. We were all in our 20s at the time.
I came from a counterculture background where I grew up in Northern California. So to me, I immediately thought Ward functioned like a commune, like a giant commune, like a giant intentional community. And that's what I fell in love with.
There was the story that the world was going to end, and there were only going to be two places that were going to survive, and that was a place in Nepal, and the dichotomy, the opposite of that was Sugarloaf Mountain in Colorado.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's what brought people here originally.
These hippies showed up in this little town that didn't have anybody living in it because there was free and or cheap housing. So I think that that's how everybody got up there, and then once everybody got there, they realized, hey, we've got this town. There's nobody here except us. Like, how are we going to run it? Are we going to do what everybody else in America has done for the past 100 years, or are we going to start with a real democracy?
we're a home rule municipality, so we make our own laws. We control our own destiny, so to speak.
Everybody has a say as a home rule, and that's always been something where you can get involved in the town government if you want to. If not, yeah, you don't have to, and nobody's gonna get down on you for not doing it.
Ward doesn't have rules. Rules are pretty strictly frowned upon. It's considered that, you know, basically people are smart enough to figure out what is right and what is wrong, and if you're doing wrong, then you'll hear about it from your neighbors. And that's, in my experience, very different from Boulder, where, you know, people think they've got their freedoms or whatever, and Ward just doesn't have any of those stupid mores.
What Boulder is to Colorado, that is that most of Colorado looks at Boulder as being too liberal, too pretty, too free-thinking, you know, too environmental. Ward is that same relationship to Boulder.
There's a few people that would love to see Ward become like a pretty little picture box or a picture book mountain town with no dead cars and no dogs in the streets, and just like a really cute, pretty little idyllic place. It's not ever going to be that. There's way too many freaks and way too many, there's too much dirt.
We're, and probably are, some people who felt like draping the town with abandoned vehicles or old used cars would keep a certain profile of tourists and people out of town. That is, that it would keep Ward from becoming too much of an pretty up old mining tourist town full of rich Boulderites using it for their second home or something like that.
Well, it's pretty self-protective. I mean, that's the good thing, as you've heard. Yes, we throw rocks at people and you could get shot. Yeah, I'll dig in my heels at anything that threatens the peace of Ward.
People would walk around with guns, you know, because guns were allowed. People would walk around with guns. They would stop cars.
Basically, they were like toll trolls, and they would hold people up and take their money and run off to the woods. They definitely fed the imagination of greater Boulder County as far as what kind of people are in Ward.
There's I think, a history of the media focusing on Ward as a sort of an anachronism or a place where people are different and the town is different.
There was this blanket assumption that, you know, we're all a bunch of flakes on welfare or God knows, whatever, you know.
There was the Patty Hearst story about Patty Hearst hanging out here in the woods.
Oh yeah, she's just over at the ridge there in that lesbian commune. The Symbionese Liberation Army is still, they work out with their machine guns over there, and you know, but we wouldn't want to tell anybody about that. So.
I mean, yeah, that was just the craziest set of words printed that I can imagine about the town of Ward.
You know, some of the stuff has really misrepresented us, and, you know, it did offend them.
His brother was quoted on the front page of the camera, which pissed off a lot of parents in town. He was quoted as saying, anywhere else a 4-year-old only to join as child abuse, but not in Ward. Well, you know, our 4-year-olds are pretty skilled here, but I'm not sure that they can roll a good spleef yet. You know?
Where a lot of this is just pure nonsense, you know. There's no difference in Ward except for, you know, there was a lot of, you know, quote hippies at the time, so people with long hairs or people who, you know, who might be prone to enjoy different libations and different condiments of life.
No, we don't need publicity for our town, positive or negative. We just need to be left off the printed page.
There's the reason that a lot of us are here is a continuation of it. Like now it's the more workaday practical realities of life here, and that what we, you know, imagined, you know, the things that we marched for and demonstrated for and did sit-ins for, now we try to do in our daily life as a rebel act, because living in Ward really, you know, to be part of it it's a rebellious act in a way, because we take responsibility for ourselves.
There's not many people here who are trying to get rich. You know, people are more concerned with enjoying their life.
And this is very romantic, and I felt that same thing.
You don't have to explain what your past is. If you're here and you like being here, then you're accepted as being here.
If you picture any Hollywood example of the largest Thanksgiving family reunion gone awry that you possibly can, then that would be how our family gets along.
I think as one person put it to me, we're all here because we're not all there.
Well, it's our last bastion. We have a chance of holding on to what we've got. It's a bunch of autonomous people living in an autonomous town and taking care of themselves and one another and not bothering anybody else and asking not to be bothered and trying to live as joyfully and peacefully as we can. And yeah, I guess like I said before, welcome to Ward. Get out.
Oh, the band marched on in formation. The brass was phasing tunes I couldn't place. Windows open and raining in. Maroon, yellow, blue, gold and gray. The drunks were ricocheting. The old buildings downtown empty so long ago. Windows broken and dreaming, so happy to leave what was my home. With the sky blue sky, this riding time wouldn't seem